only about a third of small businesses are confident they'll grow this year. That's according to a Business Partners report. It suggests that 6 things are killing small business: unfavorable economic conditions, load shedding, record petrol price hikes, the lingering effects of COVID-19, subdued profits, and of course the unrest in the KZN and Gauteng last year. Digital marketing expert Mike Sharman has published a book entitled Brandalism. That's about what companies need to do to survive and thrive one of the most volatile business periods in history. He joins us now via Zoom to discuss his latest work. Very good morning to you, Mike, and thank you so much for joining us. So, of course, we've mentioned the 6 things killing small businesses this year. How then do they navigate all of those issues? Because they are not issues that are going to stop anytime soon.
I think that's the challenge, right? I mean, I think if we go straight into it, it's really critically important. If we want to stimulate and grow an economy, we have to be able to stimulate small business. Small business is the lifeblood of our South African economy. And day by day, there's more and more reasons why not to start a business. We've had pandemic paralysis where people haven't been able to even survive. We're just trying to tread water. But I think the reality is we need to have better tax breaks, better incentives to
Looks like we've got Mike not there. Mike, do we have you back?
You know, we need to look at both our neighbors and the global community to see how we can stimulate small business growth.
Now, who then gets involved in helping do this, Mike? I would imagine the first answer becomes government should step in and help. But then how does government go about helping when government itself is struggling the way it is?
I think that there's no silver bullet. I think ultimately we need to look at ways of mentorship, of creating opportunities for small business to strive. For me, I personally had the belief that we should have some kind of tax out bonus, where after 3 years of successfully building your business, you should be able to receive a tax incentive so that you can then receive a payout in order to stimulate and create a new business. We need to create a pay-it-forward model of sorts where we are stimulating and generating opportunities for small business to grow.
You mentioned paying it forward, and the first thing that comes to mind for me is big corporations can step in, of course, and aid government in doing this paying it forward and assisting small businesses. But as a big corporation, why would you want to step in and help small businesses? Because essentially you're helping somebody grow and become, or rather get to the level that you're at. Can big business come in there and assist small businesses without feeling like they might be under threat from those small businesses?
Well, exactly that. You know, if you look at the US S&P 500, which is a list of like 500 top performing companies on the stock market, ultimately the average age of those businesses is only 18 years old. We're in one of the most volatile periods of business. This is a bit of research I've been doing within the Brandalism writing space. And ultimately, you are more likely to fail after 2 decades than you were at any time in previous parts of history. So large corporations need to look at ways to invest in small and new agile business, new tech opportunities, because ultimately they need to find ways of cannibalizing themselves for the future development of their own brand and their own business. Look at the way in which Facebook has evolved. Facebook was a pure desktop play. And at one stage, Zuckerberg said, I don't want any more desktop presentations. I want mobile. And he started throwing computers out of windows when people were presenting PowerPoint slides. He only wanted to see the interface on mobile. And it just shows you the future forward thinking that you have to look at cannibalizing ways that your business operates at in order to survive into future decades and to grow and stimulate future job opportunities.
We saw some 14, 15 years ago with the Great Depression, you know, that was probably one of the sweetest times, one would say, for businesses to essentially firstly be born, and those that were still, you know, in operation to grow. You know, we're not necessarily out of the pandemic, but we are at a more relaxed time of the pandemic, a less hectic time of the pandemic, as it were. Is this why then we're seeing about 31% of businesses saying that this year is probably the best year for their businesses to grow? And maybe then this year would be also equally the best year for people to start small businesses?
Well, I think the converse on that is that that's a very small percentage of people that are actually confident in starting business. But if you go out into the market, whether you're buying a coffee at your favorite coffee shop or buying amagwinya at the taxi rank, I think ultimately it's a great opportunity to do the ordinary extraordinary. And we've lost that opportunity to really over deliver. If you get out there and you sell anything from a food stuff to a service, you just have to be slightly better than your competitor right now in order for you to to strive through that thriving space.
How important, Mike, is it to not think conventionally? You know, we're at a time now where to keep your business alive during the pandemic, in those 2 years when we were going through all sorts of hard lockdowns, you had to be, unconventional in your thinking. You had to think out of the box. You had to be very creative. How important is that going to be, in essentially shifting the landscape of business going forward?
Well, that's essentially the essence of Brandalism. It's about vandalizing your brand, your thinking, so that you can almost redefine the status quo, so that you can redefine what success looks like. At our agency, we've personally seen successes by moving very agile, very creatively. The stuff that we've done with My Creepy Teacher, with Tinder Swindler, with Checkers 60/60 most recently. And then obviously you and I have had several discussions around crowdfunding for Olympic medal bonuses, or to help sports teams get to the Olympics. It's time to be creative and look at new models, new revenue streams, and new ways of working together collaboratively in this new world and new environment.
Mike, is there money out there? I mean, we are going through very tough financial times at the moment, especially with our economy. I mean, can you imagine economies around the world themselves are struggling, but we are quite under the pump here in South Africa. But is there money out there? Can I, in a month or 2 months' time, start a business? Can I invest in a business perhaps that's already established and a little small that I want to grow? Is there money out there? Can I get patrons out there?
You know what? The reality is that there's always money. And I think if you have an idea, if you just started and look at ways to create some form of cash flow revenue generation, like that's a really great way to start. It could be selling coffees, it could be selling foodstuffs, but what is the thing that you're going to go out there and create? Because ultimately, in a South African context, if you start creating a business that has revenue and has cash flow, there are investors out there looking to put in money because they know that that's certain better returns than so many other opportunities, whether it be property or savings accounts. There's money to be invested in small business. There also are accelerator programs. So whether you're a tech idea or whether you're a functioning idea, there's opportunities for you to actually do that research online and to find spaces, whether you are in fintech or agriculture or numerous myriad of other spaces. There is always money, and there are always investors out there looking to take a bet on someone who can help generate returns for their money in the longer term.
The fourth industrial revolution is moving at a snail's pace in this country. Are we not exploiting the digital space enough? Because these days, at least through the pandemic, again, we'll make reference to that, we lived on the digital space. The traditional kind of doing business, was quite difficult. So we were digital. Are we not exploiting that space enough in this country and not seeing, the fruits, the gold mine that the digital space is?
I think it all comes back to mentorship. I think we have terrible examples of leaders in the public domain. We also don't have a lot of present fathers. I think there's a whole myriad of issues that comes down to the challenges of being a South African entrepreneur. But I think if you contemplate the fact that we all have a smartphone in our hands, whether you are the most affluent or the most poor, almost every South African has a smartphone. And with that brings opportunities for your own self-education, your own self-upliftment, and your own research opportunities in order to generate your self-starting mentality. People shouldn't be just satisfied with taking a monthly grant, because that's not going to get you out of poverty. The opportunities exist within learnership space, they exist within product space, and they exist within you getting out there and hustling to make something happen. Like, there's so many opportunities. We just need better mentors, and we look at better opportunities to help people to thrive and get through these tough times.
Let's hope that, as COVID-19 seemingly eases, or at least doesn't, it cause the havoc that it's been causing for the last 2 years, people do come out of their shells and realize that there are great opportunities out there, as you have mentioned. Mike, thank you so much for joining us here on the South African Morning. That is Mike Sharman, a digital marketing expert and the author of the book, Brandalism.